So as you've probably heard, Puget Sound Energy is currently working to develop a liquefied natural gas facility here on the port of Tacoma. This is largely the direct result of the fact that the United States Environmental EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, came knocking on Tote's door about 2006 due to their emission standards. So Tote runs 2 ships per week between the Port of Tacoma and the Port of Anchorage, Alaska, and they're responsible for roughly 1/3 of all commodities in the state of Alaska. Everything from rental cars to heavy equipment, anything you'd find on the shelves at Lowe's, anything you'd find on the shelves at a Fred Meyer, et cetera, et cetera. So because of their travel path between here and Anchorage, they mostly travel within 200 miles of the U.S. coastline, and the EPA said your emission standards are not up to what we need to see, and so they did a bit of research and put out a request for proposal to develop an LNG facility to fuel their ships. PSE was a successful bidder, and so we are now looking at developing an LNG plant primarily to fuel Tote, but there's also another few other things we'll get into as I move through the presentation. So exactly what is LNG? So LNG is basically natural gas. The majority of folks in this room probably either have natural gas in their home or know somebody that does. It cooks your food, heats your homes, you flip the switch and your fireplace comes on, all those good things. It's the same commodity, it's just super cooled. Once it gets down to a cryogenic temperature, about -260, it becomes liquid form. By doing so, you reduce the volume by about 600 times, which becomes very, very appealing for those in the transportation industry, because you don't have to have these massive containers to store fuel. So moving forward, what is the facility? We're looking at this facility. It's down on the Port of Tacoma. If you guys are familiar, this here's the Blair Waterway. This is the High-Lobos Waterway. So we're looking to site at the High-Lobos at about 11th and Taylor Way, Taylor-Alexander vicinity. Currently there is an old Navy facility that was built back in the 40s. Amazing timber in that building. Hopefully we'll do as much reclamation as we can. So if any of you have been near the site, this is what it looks like today. And again, old Navy facility. It was used by the Coast Guard for a number of years as well. And then last 12 years or so, it's been used as a logistics break bulk sort of, freight in, freight out. Said and done, this is what we're talking about. It'd be an 8 million gallon structure. We'll have production capability of up to 500,000 gallons a day. The 2 Tote ships that we have a contractual agreement for will be using about 900,000 gallons a week. So again, 2 ships, 4 Tote, and we'll be directly fueling those ships. And I'll get into that. So as mentioned, the US EPA is concerned about emissions. So the primary driver is to work to clean up everything that needs to happen to improve air quality, not only here in Tacoma, but all the way along the US coastline. The big push is that by converting to LNG over bunker fuel or diesel, you reduce particulate emissions by roughly 100%, essentially. Sulfur emissions by about 90%, any sort of nitrous-based emissions by about 90%, and all other greenhouse gases by roughly 30%. So LNG is essentially very safe. All we are building on this port is a big thermos. It's not under pressure. It's what we refer to as a full containment tank. It's a nickel steel structure that is encased in concrete, about 3-foot thickness, reinforced concrete at the base, tapering up to about 2-foot thickness at the top of the structure. Not under pressure again, and it just sits there until we need it or use it, send it out to our customers. We have about 16 permitting and regulatory entities looking at this facility, everything from U.S. Coast Guard branch of the military, all the way down to a local permit or municipal permitting entities. So it's definitely something that we're looking at very closely. Coast Guard is the primary enforcement entity. During construction, we'll have about 300 jobs or so during the peak of construction. Once the project is completed and the facility is up and operational, we'll have 18 full-time jobs. I'm sure a number of you have seen in the paper and things that the opposition group is mentioning that these are $35,000 a year jobs. I'd give anybody in this room $100 right now to tell me any union worker that worked for $35,000 a year. So in Pierce County alone, PSE owns, operates, and maintains about 3,300 miles of natural gas pipeline. We have about 26,000 miles of natural gas pipeline in our service territory. With this facility, including the facility itself, we will be building about 5 miles of new pipeline, about a mile out in Golden Gibbons, South County. The origin of gas that we're getting off of Williams Pipeline is out near Frederickson, so we've got to connect the dots down there, and then the other substantial pipeline effort will be between I-5 and the facility itself. There's about 4 miles of Taylor Way. It's one of countless gas pipelines that we have crossing the border. So, this project is not an export facility, never intended to be so. Primarily, again, the driver was TOTE because they put out an RFP. PSE was a successful bidder on the proposal. There was 2 other entities, large international gas petroleum exploration entities, and they wanted, both of the other final bidders wanted to have it be an export facility. This is absolutely not that. So by comparison, we're talking about an 8 million gallon facility. Your average export facility is somewhere around 200 million gallons of storage. Your average export ship is about 30 to 70 million gallons. And export facilities are kicking out a ship every, say, about 3 to 5 ships per week. If we took totes, our contractual agreement with Tote out of it, it'd take us probably 6 months to fill up a ship. These ships run about $200 to $300 million each. So just from base economics, not even including anything that we have production-wise, it would never pencil out as far as being an export facility. We are definitely not methanol. A lot of you probably saw a pretty heightened ad campaign that we entered into earlier this year. That was largely because we were getting intermingled with the methanol facility. We heard assertions that methanol cannot be created absent LNG as part of the fuel, as part of the product and development of methanol. Absolutely not true. We've also heard that the methanol facility was reliant on LNG for fueling their ships to get the methanol then from Port of Tacoma to, well, China, I guess is where they were taking all the methanol. Absolutely not true. Another one of the big things that you probably heard about a lot was the water usage. In talking with the methanol folks, we understand that they were using like 10.4 million gallons a day is what they targeted. In our environmental impact statement, we had targeted about 13,000 gallons a day, and through engineering and design, moving forward, that's actually been reduced to about 2,000 gallons a day. So, kind of interesting. I've got a friend that works in developing real estate, subdivisions, that sort of thing. He says we use more than that for dust control on a daily basis. So, just general comparison, no comparison really. LNG is being used globally. It's coming on like crazy in Europe, especially France, Italy, a lot of Mediterranean ports. LNG is coming on without question. We have a number of terrestrial-based LNG entities, land-based that are looking at LNG as well. There's a number of rail entities out of Texas that have converted all of their rail to operate off LNG. And I know that Patelco, which is PSE's electric contractor, our service provider for our electric contracts, they've converted the majority of their fleet to run off of LNG as well. So we're working on that. Just for frame of reference, Waterbury, Connecticut, this facility here was built by the same contractor that PSE has hired to build the Tacoma LNG facility. This is a 14.6 million gallon LNG facility in Waterbury, Connecticut. It was put into operation in 2007. They are not bunkering, they're not loading ships, but it's what they refer to as a peak shaver. So again, just for context, this is the same type of structure. This one actually is almost twice again as big as what PSE is talking about constructing.